The sun was just waking up when Emily felt the first pain. It came like a wave in the ocean, strong and surprising. She grabbed Daniel's hand so tight that his fingers turned white. "Daniel," she whispered. "It's time." Daniel jumped out of bed, so fast he almost fell over his shoes. His heart was beating like a drum. For 5 long years, they had hoped and prayed for a baby. They had cried many tears together. They had visited many doctors. And now, finally, their dream was coming true. But it wasn't just one baby. It was 4. The hospital was quiet in the early morning. Their footsteps echoed in the empty hallways as nurses rushed Emily into a special room. Daniel held her hand the whole time, whispering, "You're so brave. You're so strong." Hours passed like slow clouds. Emily was tired, so very tired, but she kept going. And then, one by one, for tiny cries filled the room. "It's a girl," the doctor said. "Another girl. A boy. And one more boy." Daniel's eyes filled with happy tears. For babies. For perfect little miracles. He wanted to shout with joy. He wanted to dance. He wanted to tell the whole world. The nurses cleaned the babies and wrapped them in soft blankets. They brought them to Emily, who was tired but smiling the biggest smile Daniel had ever seen. She looked like an angel holding clouds. "We did it," she whispered. "We finally did it." Daniel leaned down to kiss her forehead. Then he looked at his children for the first time, and his smile froze. 2 of the babies were pale, with thin golden hair that shined like morning light. Their skin was pink and soft, like rose petals. But the other 2 babies were different. Their skin was brown, dark like warm chocolate. Their hair was black and curly, tight little spirals that bounced when they moved. Daniel blinked. He looked again. His heart started beating faster, but not from happiness anymore. From something else. Something that felt like ice in his chest. "Emily," he said slowly. His voice sounded strange, even to himself. "Why? Why do they look so different?" Emily was too tired to understand what he meant. She gazed at all 4 babies with pure love in her eyes. "They're beautiful, aren't they? All of them so beautiful." "But Emily," Daniel said, and now his voice was shaking. "2 of them they're dark. Their skin is dark." The room suddenly felt very cold. A nurse looked up, her face worried. Another nurse whispered something to the doctor. Emily finally understood what Daniel was saying. Her eyes went wide. "Daniel, what are you thinking? These are our babies. All 4 of them." "How?" Daniel stepped back from the bed. "How is that possible? Look at us, Emily. Look at us and look at them." It was true. Daniel had pale skin and light brown hair. Emily had creamy skin and blonde hair that felt like sunshine. Their families, as far as they knew, looked the same for many generations. "There must be a mistake," Daniel said. His hands were shaking. "Maybe the hospital mixed up the babies. Maybe." "No." Emily's voice was loud now. Even though she was so tired, she could barely keep her eyes open. "Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. I carried all 4 of them inside me. I felt them kick. I sang to them. They are OURS. But doubt is like a tiny seed. Once it's planted, it starts to grow." Daniel looked at the 2 brown babies and couldn't stop the terrible thoughts that came into his mind. His grandmother's voice echoed in his memory, saying things about different people, things he had tried to forget. His old friend from school, making jokes he had laughed at but now wished he hadn't. The doctor came over, her face kind but serious. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, this is unusual, yes, but not impossible. Genetics can be complicated. Sometimes traits skip many generations. Sometimes." "I want a test," Daniel said coldly. "I want to know the truth." Emily started crying. Big tears rolled down her cheeks and fell on the babies in her arms. "How can you doubt me? How can you doubt us?" "I'm not doubting you," Daniel lied. "I just want to understand." But they both knew he was doubting everything. The nurses took the babies to the nursery so Emily could rest. Daniel stood by the window, looking at his 4 children through the glass. 2 pale, 2 dark. 2 that looked like him, 2 that didn't. People started to notice. Other families in the hospital whispered and pointed. A nurse made a phone call, speaking in a quiet voice. Someone took a picture with their phone when they thought no one was watching. By the time Emily and Daniel were ready to go home 3 days later, the whole town had heard the story. The car ride home was silent. The 4 babies slept in their car seats, innocent and peaceful, not knowing that the world around them was full of questions and doubts. Emily stared out the window, tears running down her face. She had imagined this moment so many times, bringing her babies home, feeling nothing but pure joy. Instead, her heart felt broken into a million pieces. Daniel's hands gripped the steering wheel, so tight his knuckles were white. He loved Emily. He had loved her since the day they met in college, when she had smiled at him in the library and his whole world had changed. But now, he couldn't stop the poisonous thoughts. Were these really his children? All of them? When they pulled into their driveway, neighbors were peeking through their curtains. Mrs. Henderson from next door stood in her yard, pretending to water her flowers, but really trying to see inside the car. Daniel carried 2 babies inside. Emily carried the other 2. They didn't speak. They didn't look at each other. The nursery was painted yellow, bright, and cheerful like sunshine. 4 cribs waited, each one with a soft blanket and a stuffed animal. Emily and Daniel had spent weeks getting everything ready, laughing and planning and dreaming. Now the yellow walls felt like they were mocking them. That night, Emily fed the babies and changed their diapers and sang soft lullabies. Daniel stood in the doorway, watching but not helping. The space between them felt wider than an ocean. "I called Dr. Chun," Daniel finally said. "He can do a genetic test. We'll know for sure." Emily didn't answer. She just kept rocking one of the brown babies, a little girl with beautiful dark eyes that seemed to see right into her soul. "Her name is Maya," Emily whispered. "I decided while you were making your phone call. And her brother is Noah. The other 2 are Lily and Rose." "Emily, they have names, Daniel. They are people. They are our children. And if you can't see that, then maybe you don't really know me at all." The words hung in the air like smoke. Daniel left the room. He went downstairs and sat in the dark, his head in his hands. Outside, the night was quiet and full of stars. Somewhere in that darkness, his whole life was changing, and he didn't know if he was strong enough to face what was coming. Upstairs, Emily held Maya close and whispered, "I will always love you, no matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone thinks. You are mine and I am yours, and that will never change." But even as she spoke those words, she wondered, would love be enough? Could love survive doubt? Could a family stay together when the world was trying to tear it apart? The night stretched on, long and cold, and nobody slept much at all. The first week at home felt like living in a broken house. Emily and Daniel moved around each other like ghosts, saying only what they needed to say. "The babies need milk." "I changed Noah's diaper." "Lily is crying." But they didn't say the things that mattered. They didn't say, "I love you," or "we'll be okay," or "I believe in us." The babies didn't know about any of this trouble. They just knew they were hungry and sleepy and needed to be held. Maya would scrunch up her tiny face before crying. Noah made little cooing sounds when Emily tickled his feet. Lily had the loudest cry, and Rose was the quietest, always watching everything with her big blue eyes. Emily loved all 4 of them with her whole heart, every single piece of it. But Daniel was lost in a storm of thoughts he couldn't control. At night, when Emily was feeding the babies, Daniel would lie in bed staring at the ceiling. He would think about his wedding day, how Emily had looked like a princess in her white dress. He would remember their honeymoon at the beach, building sandcastles and laughing until their stomachs hurt. He would remember 5 years of hoping, praying, crying together. And then he would think about the 2 brown babies upstairs, and all those good memories would get tangled up with ugly questions. The worst part was the whispers. Mrs. Henderson told Mrs. Wu at the grocery store. Mrs. Wu told her sister. Her sister told everyone at church. Soon, the whole town was talking. "Did you hear about the Morrison babies? 2 of them are black. Can you believe it? That poor man. What must he be thinking?" Well, maybe Emily has some explaining to do. The whispers were like poison spreading through water. They reached Daniel's office, where his co-worker Jake stopped talking whenever Daniel walked into the room. They reached Emily's sister, who called crying, asking, "Is it true? What happened?" Even the mailman looked at Daniel with pity in his eyes. Daniel felt like he was drowning. One night, 2 weeks after the babies came home, Daniel's mother called. She had been on a trip and was just hearing the news. "Daniel," she said, and her voice was hard like stone, "you need to demand answers. You need to protect yourself. This isn't right. This isn't natural. Mom, please. Your father and I are very concerned. How do you even know those children are yours? Emily could have." Daniel hung up the phone. His hands were shaking. He hated what his mother was saying, but the terrible truth was that part of him had been thinking the same things. That night, he slept in the guest room. Emily found him there in the morning, and something inside her broke. "So this is it?" she said, standing in the doorway with tears streaming down her face. "You believe I betrayed you? After everything we've been through together? After 5 years of trying to have a baby together? You think I would do that?" Daniel couldn't look at her. "I don't know what to think anymore." "Yes, you do," Emily said, and now her voice was strong like steel. "You think I'm a liar. You think Maya and Noah aren't yours. You look at their beautiful brown skin, and you see something wrong instead of something miraculous. It doesn't make sense." Daniel shouted, finally looking up. "Look at us, Emily. We're both white. Our parents are white. Our grandparents were white. How can we have black children?" "I don't know," Emily shouted back, "but I know they're OURS. I carried them for 8 months. I felt them move inside me. I talked to them and sang to them and loved them before they even took their first breath. How dare you doubt that?" The babies started crying upstairs, all 4 of them, like they could feel their parents' pain. Emily ran to take care of them. Daniel stayed in the guest room, his head in his hands, feeling like the worst person in the world. That afternoon, Dr. Chun came to the house. He was a kind man with gentle eyes who had helped Emily and Daniel through their years of trying to have a baby. "I brought the test kit," he said quietly. "It's simple. We just need a small sample from inside everyone's cheek. We'll know the results in a few days." Emily held each baby while Dr. Chen swabbed their mouths. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "You don't have to do this," she told Daniel. "You could just choose to believe me. You could choose to have faith." But Daniel had already decided. He needed to know for sure. The next 3 days were the longest of their lives. Emily barely spoke to Daniel. She took care of the babies, fed them, changed them, sang to them. She had help from her best friend Rachel, who came over every day and brought food and told Emily she was the strongest person she knew. Daniel went to work but couldn't concentrate. He made mistakes on simple things. He forgot meetings. His boss asked if he was okay, and Daniel lied and said he was fine. At night, he would stand outside the nursery and listen to Emily singing lullabies. Her voice was so beautiful, so full of love, and he would feel his heart breaking because he wanted to believe her, wanted to trust her, but the doubt was like a monster he couldn't fight. On the 3rd day, Dr. Chin called. "Can you both come to my office?" he asked. "I have the results." They drove to the doctor's office in silence. Emily stared out the window. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. Both of them were terrified, but for different reasons. Emily was afraid Daniel would leave them. Daniel was afraid of what the truth might be. Dr. Chen's office smelled like flowers and medicine. They sat in 2 chairs across from his desk, not touching, barely breathing. Dr. Chen opened a folder and looked at them with kind eyes. "The test results are back," he said. "And I have to tell you, this is one of the most extraordinary cases I've ever seen." Emily's heart stopped. Daniel's face went pale. "All 4 children," Dr. Chin continued, "are biologically yours. Every single one of them. Daniel, you are their father. Emily, you are their mother. There's absolutely no doubt." The room started spinning. Emily burst into tears. Daniel just sat there, frozen, unable to process what he was hearing. "But how?" he whispered. Dr. Chin smiled. "Genetics is more complicated than most people think. Emily, It turns out you have ancestry from Africa that goes back many generations. It's in your DNA, hidden, passed down through the centuries. And Daniel, you have Mediterranean and Middle Eastern ancestry mixed in your background, too. He showed them a chart with colored lines and numbers that looked like a rainbow. What we're seeing here is something called genetic recombination with dormant genes expressing themselves. Your ancestors came from all over the world: Africa, Europe, the Mediterranean. Usually, these traits stay hidden, but sometimes, rarely, they appear in children. It's like a surprise gift from your family's past. Are you saying, Emily whispered, that Maya and Noah look the way they do because of my great-great-great-grandparents? Exactly, Dr. Chen said. Your family tree is more colorful than you knew, and that's beautiful. That's a blessing. Daniel felt like he had been hit by a wave. All the doubt, all the suspicion, all the terrible thoughts. They had been wrong. Completely wrong. Oh, God, he said and started crying. Oh, God, what have I done? Emily looked at him, and for a moment, her face was hard. She had every right to be angry. She had every right to never forgive him. But then she saw how broken he looked, and she remembered the man she had fallen in love with, the man who had held her hand through 5 years of disappointment, the man who had wiped her tears and told her they would never give up. You doubted me, she said quietly. You broke my heart. I know, Daniel sobbed. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But Emily continued, and now tears were running down her face too. You're also the father of my children, all 4 of them, and they need you. I need you. But Daniel, you have to do better. You have to be better. I will, Daniel promised. I swear I will. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Dr. Chen gave them copies of the test results. You might want to share these, he said. I have a feeling a lot of people have been talking. He was right. When Emily and Daniel got home, there were 3 news vans parked on their street. Someone had called the media. The story of the quadruplets, 2 white, 2 black, had spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know the truth. Daniel and Emily looked at each other. They were tired. They were hurt, but they were also still a family. Let's tell them, Emily said. Let's tell everyone the truth. They stood on their front porch, holding hands for the first time in weeks. Cameras flashed. Microphones were pushed toward them. Daniel spoke first. I want to say I'm sorry. I doubted my wife when I should have trusted her. I let fear and ignorance cloud my judgment. I was wrong and I'm ashamed. His voice cracked, but he kept going. All 4 of our children are ours. The test proves it. But more than that, love proves it. Family isn't just about what we look like. It's about who we choose to be for each other. Emily squeezed his hand and added, Our babies are miracles. They show us that families come in all colors, that our ancestors are still living in us, that love is bigger than anything we can see with our eyes. The story spread even faster after that. But this time, it was a different kind of story. Not about scandal or shame, but about science and wonder and the beautiful mystery of being human. That night, Daniel helped Emily feed all 4 babies. He held Maya and looked into her dark eyes and whispered, I'm sorry I doubted you. You are perfect. You are mine, and I will love you forever. He said the same thing to Noah, to Lily, and to Rose. And Emily, watching him, felt her broken heart start to heal. Not all the way, that would take time, but enough to hope, enough to believe that they could be okay again. Outside, the stars were shining bright, and the whole world was learning that miracles don't always look the way we expect them to. Forgiveness is not something that happens in one day. It's like planting a garden. You have to water it, give it sunshine, and wait for things to grow. Daniel knew this. Every morning, he woke up early to help with the babies. He changed diapers, even the really messy ones. He warmed bottles at 2 a.m. when Emily was too tired to move. He sang silly songs that made no sense but made the babies smile. I'm going to earn your trust back, he told Emily one night, while they were both rocking crying babies in the dark nursery. However long it takes. Emily looked at him with tired eyes. It's going to take a while, Daniel. You hurt me deeply. I know, he said softly, and I'll spend forever making it right. Slowly, like ice melting in spring, things got better. The story of the Morrison quadruplets became famous all over the world. Scientists wanted to study their genes. News programs wanted to interview the family. Magazines wrote articles with titles like The Miracle Family and What These Babies Teach Us About Race and Love. Dr. Chin published a paper about their case. He explained how genes can hide for many generations, then suddenly appear like surprise visitors. He talked about how all humans are connected, how we all come from the same place if we go back far enough, and how skin color is just one tiny part of what makes us who we are. Schools started using the Morrison family story in science classes. Teachers would show pictures of Lily, Rose, Maya, and Noah and say, "See, we're all more alike than we are different. We're all part of one big human family." But the most important changes were happening at home. The babies grew from tiny infants into chubby, giggly toddlers. Lily was the first to walk, stumbling across the living room into Emily's arms. Rose was the first to talk, saying "Mama" so clearly that Emily cried happy tears. Maya loved to stack blocks higher and higher until they crashed down, making her laugh. Noah would dance whenever he heard music, bouncing up and down with the biggest smile. People would stop Emily at the grocery store and stare at her children. Some people smiled and said kind things. Others just looked confused, trying to understand how these 4 children could be siblings. Maya, even at 3 years old, noticed when people stared. "Why does that lady look at me funny?" she asked Emily one day. Emily knelt down so she was eye level with her daughter. "Because you're special, sweetheart. You and Noah have beautiful brown skin that comes from our family's history in Africa. Lily and Rose have pale skin from our family's history in Europe. You're all part of the same family tree, just different beautiful branches." "Like a rainbow family?" Maya asked. "Exactly like a rainbow family," Emily said, hugging her tight. As the children grew older, they each developed their own special talents and interests. Lily loved to paint. She would spend hours with watercolors, creating pictures of flowers and butterflies and families holding hands. Her art teacher said she had a gift for seeing beauty in everything. Rose was quiet and thoughtful. She loved to read books about animals and nature. She wanted to help creatures that were hurt or lost. "When I grow up," she told Daniel, "I'm going to make sure everyone has a safe home, no matter what they look like." Maya was fascinated by science. She would ask Daniel a million questions. Why is the sky blue? How do birds fly? What makes people have different skin colors? She wanted to understand everything about the world. Noah loved music. He learned to play piano when he was 6, and by the time he was 8, he was writing his own songs. His music was full of hope and joy, making everyone who heard it feel lighter. When people asked the children about why they looked different from each other, they had learned to answer with grace. "We're quadruplets," they would say, "born on the same day, from the same mom and dad. We just got different genes from our ancestors." Sometimes kids at school would be mean. They would say Maya and Noah couldn't really be related to Lily and Rose. They would call them names or ask rude questions, but the 4 siblings always stood together. "If you're mean to my brother, you're mean to me," Lily would say, holding Noah's hand. "We're a team," Rose would add. "All 4 of us, always." Daniel and Emily taught their children to be proud of who they were. They hung pictures of their ancestors on the walls, great-great-grandparents from Africa, Europe, and the Mediterranean. They celebrated all the cultures in their family tree. They cooked foods from different countries. They learned words in different languages. Their home became a place where diversity wasn't just accepted, it was celebrated. If you're loving the story of hope and family, make sure to share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe so you never miss stories that touch your heart and change the way you see the world. Years passed like pages turning in a book. The quadruplets went to middle school, then high school. They faced challenges. Sometimes people didn't understand their family. Sometimes they had to explain over and over that, yes, they really were all siblings. But they also experienced beautiful moments. Maya won a science fair with a project about genetic diversity. Lily's paintings were displayed in a real art gallery. Noah performed his songs at a concert where hundreds of people came to listen. Rose started a club at school to help students from different backgrounds become friends. And Daniel and Emily, they watched it all with wonder. They had been through fire together. Doubt, pain, broken trust. But they had come out stronger on the other side. Their love had been tested and had survived. Daniel never forgot the mistake he had made. Sometimes, on quiet nights, he would still feel ashamed of how he had doubted Emily, how he had let fear control him. "Do you ever think about those first weeks?" he asked Emily one evening, after the children were asleep. "Sometimes," Emily said honestly, "it still hurts when I remember. But Daniel, you prove that people can change. You prove that love can overcome ignorance. That's what I choose to focus on." She took his hand. "You're not the same man who doubted me. You've grown. You've learned. And that matters." The Morrison family became more than just a family. They became a symbol. When there were arguments about race in their town, people would point to Morrisons and say, "See, we're all connected. We all belong to each other." When schools needed to teach about diversity, they invited Emily and Daniel to speak. The message was always the same. Judge people by their hearts, not their skin. Love is what makes a family, not appearance. When the quadruplets graduated from high school, they each chose different paths. Maya went to college to study genetics. She wanted to help other families understand their ancestry and heritage. She dreamed of a world where no one would ever doubt their children because of how they looked. Lily went to art school. Her paintings became famous for showing families of all different colors, all holding hands, all united. Museums displayed her work, and people would stand in front of her paintings and cry because they felt so much hope. Noah became a composer. He wrote a symphony called Four Hearts, One Family, that was performed by orchestras around the world. The music told the story of doubt turning into love, of pain turning into beauty, of division turning into unity. Rose became a family counselor. She helped parents who had adopted children from different races. She helped mixed families navigate a world that didn't always understand them. She helped build bridges between people who thought they were too different to love each other. And people everywhere listened to their story and learned. The years continued to pass. Emily and Daniel grew older, their hair turning gray, their faces getting wrinkles that showed all the smiles and tears they had experienced. One day, when they were grandparents, they sat on their porch watching their grandchildren play in the yard. Those grandchildren came in every color imaginable. Some had pale skin, some had brown skin, some had skin in between. Some had straight hair, some had curly hair, some had blue eyes, some had brown eyes. But they were all family. They were all loved. They were all miracles. "Look at what we started," Emily said to Daniel, holding his hand like she had done 1,000 times before. "Look at what you started." Daniel corrected her. "You never stopped believing. Even when I failed you, you believed in our family." "We both made this," Emily said. "Your mistakes made you grow. My forgiveness made us stronger. And our children showed the world what's possible when love wins over fear." One of the grandchildren ran up to them. A little girl with beautiful dark skin and bright blue eyes, a perfect mix of everything. "Grandma, Grandpa, watch me do a cartwheel." They watched, and they clapped, and they laughed. And in that moment, Emily and Daniel knew the truth that had taken them so long to learn. Miracles don't always look the way we expect them to. Sometimes they come wrapped in questions and challenges. Sometimes they break our hearts before they heal them. Sometimes they force us to face our own fears and prejudices. But they are still miracles. Family isn't about matching on the outside. It's about matching on the inside, heart to heart, soul to soul. Love doesn't see color. Love sees people. Love sees worth. Love sees beauty in all its forms. And forgiveness? Forgiveness is the bridge that carries us from our worst mistakes to our best selves. As the sun set over their home, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink and purple, a rainbow of colors, just like their family, Emily whispered something that Daniel would remember for the rest of his life. "We are proof that different isn't wrong. Different is just different. and different together makes something beautiful. The quadruplets, now grown with families of their own, came to visit that evening. They brought food and laughter and stories. They brought their children, the grandchildren, who played together without seeing differences, only friends and cousins and family. And as they all sat around a dinner table, a family that looked like a rainbow, a family that had been tested by doubt and strengthened by love, Daniel said grace. Thank you for this family. Thank you for these miracles. Thank you for teaching us that love is bigger than fear, and truth is stronger than prejudice, and forgiveness can turn even our darkest moments into our greatest blessings. Thank you for showing us that we are all connected, all part of one human family, all worthy of love. Amen. Amen. Everyone said together. And somewhere in that moment, in that room full of different faces and different colors and different stories all woven together, was the answer to every question that had ever been asked. This is what family looks like. This is what love looks like. This is what hope looks like. This is what miracles look like when they finally come true. If this story touched your heart, share it with your family and friends. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories about love, family, and the miracles that happen when we choose to see the beauty in our differences. Together, we can spread a message of hope and unity to the world.